back to In a Tiny Garden. Today is week 10, so very middle of March, which is a perfect time for me to start my tomato seeds. Don't be panicked if you've already started yours or if you don't plan to start them for another couple weeks, because last year I started them on the 1st of April. Today I'm going to be sowing all of them, and there's quite a few varieties, but I'll take you through them in a sec. But first I'm going to give you a little progress report on what's been growing in the last week and show you a few more things I can pot on. A few things on maintenance first, including remembering to turn your seed trays regularly so they don't grow lopsided towards the sunlight, and also remembering to water seedlings, especially when the top of the compost starts to dry out, though for freshly sown seeds, the top needs to remain moist. Get used to the weight of your trays just after fully watering, so you can tell when they start to feel lighter and therefore need a top up. I'm just taking the brassicas that we pricked out last week, and I'm going to then prick out the brassicas that we sowed last week, just the Pellets and the Brussels sprouts, as they germinated really quickly inside last week, and I was a little bit slow putting them in the cold frame, so they've gotten a little leggy, especially the Pellets. And I'm just showing you one of each, but if you want to see the video on pricking out brassicas, that's in the week 9 video, the one previous to this. So the peas have all germinated and we've had really good success, almost too good, because clearly I put 4 in a few of them and I definitely only want 2 in each when I plant them out. So I might just wait until they get a little bit bigger and then I can actually pinch them off and eat it like a shoot, and then remove one of them so that I'm only planting out 2. So now I'm going to take this and put it out in the cold frame, because these will grow really leggy if I keep them inside, and they're hardy as well. So if you really wanted to, you can actually direct sow peas now outside, but like I said in the last video, mine would get eaten by mice. So I'm going to keep them in these for a few more weeks. Let's bring them outside. I'm gonna have to turn it around. Take some of the other stuff out. These guys need to start getting hardened off anyway. And go peas. I've already got roots, big roots coming down. There we go. So I'm going to pot up the ginger. It's got quite a good root system already. Ooh, so exciting. So there's the ginger rhizome. There's all the new roots. And there's the shoots. And there's another little new shoot. Anyway, putting it in this bigger pot. Also, because I'm going to be using this next. And then I'm also just going to see, this is the last moment for the turmeric. And I'm going to give up on it. Oh, doesn't look as bad as I thought. Oh, it's got roots. I might find another little pot for this guy. That's promising. Perhaps I won't be giving up on it just yet, though I don't see any signs of any shoots. So now let's have a quick look at what other seeds have germinated over the past week. Here we've got the celery that has germinated, you can just about see, and the celeriac has germinated too, but you're gonna have to trust me on that one because you can't really see. And so I'll put the lid back on until you can see the leaves. And in the background, you can see the cornflower, calendula, and borage is coming up nicely. And the chili peppers are coming along with the aubergines, so they'll get their own module soon. Quite a spicy pepper. And again, you need to keep turning the trays. I turn them almost every day. Parsley's done well. You can see a few of the straw flowers have come up, as well as the scabiosa and the billy buttons. And there's the luffa, it's germinated. The pot I put the turmeric in just now. And then with the sweet potatoes is very exciting, and you need to make sure that you keep changing the water regularly. So that's what I failed to do last year, that's why they didn't work. So you can see the little slip starting at the top, which is great. And the roots, nice clean water. And now finally onto tomato sowing.
I'm growing quite a few, but I do love it, so I squish them in and find space outside where I can. I'll talk about the merits of each, but first I'm going to talk about the containers I'll be starting the seeds in.
And every year, maybe the past few years, I've used these containers. And because I use so many different varieties, I put them in little rows like I did for the Brassicas. And when I say a lot, I mean possibly over 20. I'm trying to cut down this year. So this is what I normally use, and then I'll prick them out like I did with the Brassicas into slightly larger modules and then slightly larger modules until they're eventually ready to go outside. Harden them off until they go outside. But this year, I found underneath my sofa plugs that I've been I put off using because I had used one of them, which is why one's missing, and I really didn't like them very much. But I need to use up what I have, and it just happens to be the year that I'm filming everything. So this is what I'm talking about. They're these little coir pellets, and over the years I've actually had companies get in touch and ask if they can send me some to try and that sort of thing, and I've said no, because it's very hard to ensure that the cover on these things is not plastic free, and I've used one in the past and it hasn't broken down in the soil, so it's really hard to trust the companies that make these. So you just need to kind of ask the questions, or you just get your own multi-purpose compost and do it in a tray or a small container like this size but in a normal container. So I just wanted to point that out. You do not need to go out and buy these, and in fact I probably wouldn't recommend them, but I had them anyway, so that I don't waste, I'm going to be using them. But what I'm going to do is take this wrapper off before I pot them up into the next pot size. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. Number one thing, if you are going to buy something like this, is to get peat-free. So there's a multitude of reasons why you definitely shouldn't be buying peat and why all of your compost should be peat-free. But I go into that in one of my Instagram posts that I can link below. So let's get growing.
First, you need to soak these little coir pellets in some water, and I'm going to use off-boil kettle water because the seedlings won't like being sort of shocked by the cold, so they'll be nice and warm for when they first get started. Not hot, but just warm. And then you leave them about 10-15 minutes for them to pop up completely, and I'm just kind of mushing them around to make sure there's no kind of dry pockets in them as well. So I'm going to be starting with one of my favorite varieties, yellow brandywine, and I'm going to be doing 2 of each. And then sowing 2 seeds into each plug. So I'll start with my home save seeds, and I'm sowing 2 into one plug, and then I'll thin out to the strongest seedling, so I'll just be leaving 1 seedling per plug. And I'm covering with just a little bit of vermiculite, which I can go into in a second. And then the second I'll use from the packet, which I've still got lots left, and 2 in each again. And I'm covering with vermiculite to lessen the chance of getting dampening off disease. And although you don't really need to do this, if you just kind of mush some of the compost around from the sides, that should be enough. So the next one is possibly my favorite variety, which is Brad's Atomic Grape. It's like got the best psychedelic colors and such an interesting flavor. So it's kind of like, it's almost like a savory kind of, I don't really know how to describe it, but it's not your usual tomato, but it is sweet. And so I think it's a really interesting one to try if you can get your hands on it. And then the next one's Sungella, which is a bit like the popular Sungold, but Sungold's a hybrid and this one's open pollinated. So it's a much better kind of bet because you can save the seeds. And last year I grew both and this one was just as good.
The partner says it looks like a typewriter.
The next one's Snowberry, which is it's kind of zingy and sweet. It's delicious. And then the next is the super popular Black Beauty tomato that kind of went viral on my Instagram. That one is delicious, and it's just beautiful. It's also full of healthy anthocyanins, being the world's darkest tomato. And unless I say otherwise, all the tomatoes I'm growing now are actually heirloom and open pollinated. And this is a small red aromatic tomato called Ruthja. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but the seeds are from Germany. Now this one's a determinant variety, which means it forms a bush and you don't need to pinch off side shoots. The rest of the ones I'm growing are all indeterminate, which means they need support to grow up a cane. So this one's called Green Sausage. Next is the super colorful Berkeley tie-dye green tomato, which has a superb flavor, and they are quite big, even up to a pound. And then the next one is pink Thai egg, and I told myself I wasn't going to grow this one this year because I didn't think they tasted very good last year, but they're really pretty, so I'm giving them one more go. And then the next is these tiny little ones called spoon, and they're so interesting, so I'll go more into that when we're pricking them out. And then the next is Northern Lights, and when you cut into a cross section of this one, it's so colorful and it's really, really tasty. I did 3 of those ones. And then Costoluto Fiorentino is a bright red heirloom that gets all the kind of wrinkles in the top. It's really quite big and juicy. It's so good for growing outside in the UK climate as well. It does really well. Black Crim, another big one, and it's red and almost goes to like a purpley color on the top. It's really tasty. Cosmic Eclipse is a smaller one, kind of in between size, really tasty. Green Zebra, I grow almost every year. It's a green one with stripes, really tasty, mid-size. Very similar to Wagner Blue Green, which I'm growing just probably 1 plant of this year. And then the next one is Tigerella, which I've grown for a few years now as well. It's quite a good one, red, kind of medium-sized, and with really good flavor. So then I give them a really good water, again with off kettle, kind of warm water so they don't get a shock. And now I'm going to show you how I normally sow my tomato seeds, which is in the little trays. So I'm getting the multi-purpose ready and mixing it with some vermiculite, sawing off the top in a kind of sawing motion to have it level, and then tamping it down gently, which means the seeds will have good contact. And then I'm sieving out, just for the top layer, because it's multi-purpose, some of the compost and mixing it with vermiculite. And then again, leveling it, giving it just a little tap to settle it so there's no air pockets, teeny tiny tamp down, and then watering it again with warm water for the seedlings. And then I'm going to pick my 5 top favorites so that I have kind of backups just in case the plugs go horribly wrong, which they shouldn't. Starting with Black Beauty, and I'm just going to do 2 of each. Tomato seeds are really good at germinating, so even with the plugs, I probably could have done 1 each, but I've done 2 because I've got quite a few seeds in each packet. So we're doing Black Beauty, the kind of zesty, lovely snowberry, the Brad's Atomic Grape, Sungella, and Berkeley Tie-Dye Green. And then I'm topping it off with some of the vermiculite. I probably shouldn't have put quite as much compost in because now there's barely any space to water, but a nice layer of vermiculite on the top. So I just kind of covered the seeds kind of to a depth of their own size, meaning kind of 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters. And then I give them a good water with warm water until it flows out the bottom. And then I put a lid on and shut the vent until they germinate. So I now need to find room on the heated propagator for all the tomatoes. So here we go. Repotted ginger, some wild strawberries, and the cosmos that I didn't prick out. Snapdragons, winter savory and summer savory that really need pricking out. Flowers, the edible ones, the cut flower, the turmeric. Oh, I want to keep the turmeric on the heat mat. My leffa's germinated, so that can come off. Parsley that is going to germinate has germinated, but my really old seeds haven't. Aubergine. Kind of given up on. Oh no, there's another one. Is he thinking about it? He's thinking about germinating. Come on, little guy. I think I need to give up on him. That feels a little light, so I'm actually going to give it a water. But I'll do that in a second. Right, this is going up here by the windowsill. And then tomato babies. I just can't get the ones that aren't labeled confused. So this is the easy one. Let's start here. And then the one in front of it, I've got video evidence, is the same as the one behind it. That's how we'll do this. I just did it again. So I hope you enjoyed. That was all the tomatoes I'm sowing this season. Let me know in the comments below what tomatoes you're growing and what your favorites are. Are you growing any of the same? And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, please, and think about subscribing so you know when the next one will be, which should be next week. Oh,
I'll also tell you that next week we're going to be heading out to the allotment finally. So we're going to plant out some of the things that we sowed a couple weeks ago. And I'll also be sowing some carrots, parsnips, and, well, you'll have to wait and see. And if you click the bell notification, then you'll know exactly when the next video comes out. So once again, thanks so much for watching.